Wa- Wow, thank you guys for coming so early in the morning after that rave last night, the rave. You guys are heroes, seriously. So I've been working in the DAO space since there were DAOs, and my entire crypto career, really, the last 7 years that I've been working in this space, I have had one major goal, and that goal is to change the way that we coordinate as a society around public goods. Oh, I need a clicker. And there's actually been a lot of blockers, and you could think of the regular blockers, the like UX in crypto and getting people to understand how how economics works in general. But honestly, that's not the biggest blocker. The biggest blocker is that people do not appreciate the value, the work that it takes to create public goods for society. And it's a huge challenge. And there's a general psychosis around the value of public goods. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. So let's start with what is a public good. So of course, in classical economics, there are four types of economic goods. There's private goods, which are excludable and rivalrous, like your cell phone or this clicker. I can put in my pocket and it's excludable. If I'm using the clicker, it's not very easy for you to use the clicker, so it's rivalrous, right? But if it's a movie theater, movie theaters are non-rivalrous. A movie theater is an example of a club good, something that we can both enjoy together without impeding each other's enjoyment of it. But it is excludable. You have to buy a ticket to go to the movies. These types of goods work so well with our free market economy. It's incredible what we have done for excludable goods as a society. But non-excludable goods, which in general I just call public goods, because common pool resources is a lot to say, and public goods has a good meme in the Ethereum space. So common pool resources are non-excludable and rivalrous, and they do not work well in the free market. This is an example of that would be a highway without tolls. A highway with tolls is actually a club good, because anyone who pays the toll then can enjoy the resource. But a highway without tolls is a common pool resource. It's non-excludable, as in, anyone can go drive on the road, but it's rivalrous. Traffic sucks. When there's a lot of people using it, that's the worst, right? Oh, traffic, it's like the plague of society. And then public goods. Public goods is the gold standard for economic goods. This is what we want. This is what we need to create for ourselves. We need to create a society with an abundance of public goods where we have such abundance that anyone can use it and it doesn't impede everybody else's enjoyment of it. The best example of that is clean air. If I'm breathing it, you can breathe it too, and we don't stop each other from it. But what's really cool is that economic goods can do yoga. They can move around. You don't have to just be stuck in one spot. So the free market works great. You can, for education, you can go, if you're rich, you can go get a private tutor for your kid. You can send your kids to private school. And this is where the free market economy, you get really good education here. But if you are trying to provide a public good for society, you want to make it non-excludable. So a poorly funded public school would be a common pool resource because it might be overcrowded. The students don't get enough attention. You add one more student, and that hurts everybody else. But a well-funded public school can just hire more teachers, the more people that come in. And so it becomes a public good. And as you can see by this example, unfortunately, the number one provider of public goods is the government. The government's main value to society, what they do for us, why we get stuck with these organizations all the time, is because they provide public goods. They have a monopoly over certain resources like land. If you want to buy a house, you have to play by their rules, and they'll say, hey, pay taxes to us, give us a reason to justify our economy so we can just print money. And I swear, the governments, they'll just print money and then provide public goods for us. Which is great, right? Sometimes, most of the time. There's a problem with governments. They don't have the best incentive alignment, right? If a bureaucrat makes a good decision, he gets his salary. If a bureaucrat makes a bad decision, he collects his salary. Okay, so there's no reason, there's no incentive for them to make good decisions. Well, what other incentives can they get? Okay, well, the other big problem with governments is that it's top-down. We always have public goods being funded by a bunch of people in some room that decide, oh yeah, we should send $1 million there, $1 billion there. And the people on the ground, they get to like have a voice every 4 years or something. It's not necessarily the best way to fund public goods, in my opinion. I like the grassroots approach. People on the ground that know what we need, know what public goods need are most important, deciding how they get funded. And the grassroots approach that we have is nonprofits. This is a picture, it's an illustration, it's not a real picture. It's kind of metaphorical, of a nonprofit boardroom. And in every nonprofit boardroom, there's an elephant in the room, as you can see here. And that elephant is something that they don't talk about, but they all know in the back of their mind. This is a requirement, and it's just never spoken. And I'll talk about that in a second, but first I want for everyone to understand that nonprofits create value. And it's really hard to see sometimes because they're not rewarded for that value. They have to sacrifice to do it. But they do create value. We all know that taking care of the less fortunate of society pays off in the long run. We all know that taking care of the environment will pay off in the long run. Society benefits from the work that environmentalists are doing. Society also benefits, surprisingly, we don't think of culture and heritage as a public good, but it's so important to have history and culture and have an understanding of where we've been so that we can continue to evolve. And of course, we all know in this community, we know very well the value of open source technology. This is a public good that everyone builds on in this community. And we also know that the people building these open source tools are sacrificing. They actually could be paid much better by Google or Amazon, right, to create closed source software. But they spend so much time getting things right so that we can build on top of it as a society. They create more value in the public goods space by doing open source work than they do working for Google or Amazon. And that's the elephant in the room. That's the thing that goes unspoken in nonprofits, whether it's an open source project or it's a classic nonprofit that's helping orphans. They all rely on sacrifice. They rely on donors to give without expectations of a return. They rely on volunteers to give their time and effort, their blood, sweat, and tears with nothing given back to them. Just this value, the things that they think they are doing in the world are making an impact, and that gives them value, of course. But in the financial landscape, we're screwing them. It's horrible. It doesn't make any sense. This is the psychosis. We as a society have created systems that do not reward the value that's being created in the public goods space. We know public goods have value, but because of the systems that we live within, in general, we don't actually appreciate the value of the work that's being done in the public goods. We know public goods have value, but the work that it takes to produce the value is not appreciated. And this is the collective psychosis that is stopping me from succeeding at providing these solutions that I've been trying to work on for so long. It's the constant roadblock that I keep running into. And this is because I don't think we like to admit it, but by having these kinds of systems that rely on sacrifice to produce public goods, that the society needs. Society is effectively exploiting the altruists. And we don't want to talk about it. It's sad and it hurts, but we rely on public goods. When the governments fail to provide the public goods that we need, we rely on nonprofits to step up as a society. And this reliance without reward is straight up exploitation, and it needs to stop. We need another way. We need to find a better way to reward the people that are producing value. So if we're going to find this way, this is a quote from Albert Einstein. It's a little out of context. He was soliciting for funds so that he could find a better way to deal with nuclear technology. But I think it applies here too, because we're talking about the destruction of the earth as well. A new type of thinking is essential if mankind is to survive and move towards higher levels. And right now we have two ways to fund public goods: governments and nonprofits. We need a third way. And I think crypto is bringing us a third way. And the Common Stack is dedicated to really pushing this third way. And the main focus of how to apply this is just by recognizing the future value of the work today. The future value that nonprofits are providing. If it was recognized, we'd have an opportunity to actually reward the people who are doing good work. And that's the goal. We need to call these people out as heroes. We need to provide them we need to reward them with the value they deserve for the value they are creating for us. And that's the mission of the Common Stack. Our mission is to enable communities to design and develop their own microeconomies that reward the creation of public goods. And I really want to emphasize their own microeconomies. We want to keep things small and agile and competitive, like a startup. And it needs to be their own. We can't build a platform. At least the Common Stack doesn't want to build a platform for everyone to join and use because we designed it and we tell them how to do it. It needs to be their own design and their own microeconomy. So to do this, we're not creating a platform. We're creating a foundation of tooling and documentation so that the designs of the economies can improve iteratively. Our role as the Common Stack is not to design it for these communities. Our role is to watch how the communities play and then make better tooling and make better solutions so that more people can try it out and evolve iteratively with the communities that use our tools. The most important thing that is missed, I think, by most of the crypto community is that when making economies, economics is a social science. And the cultural side of these economies is very important to appreciate. So the Common Stack has really dove into the best commons research out there, the best community research, how to make sustainable communities. Eleanor Ostrom is the first female to ever win a Nobel Prize in economics for her work in disproving the tragedy of the commons. So of course that's a great place to start. We very much in the Common Stack follow her principles that are so critical for the DAO space to really dive into and appreciate. I'm going to read them for you. I want to say that her research was based off of commons that were lasting generations. She only studied commons that lasted 100 years or more. And so her words have wisdom in them, for sure. There's 8 principles. Number 1, commons need to have clearly defined boundaries. That's easy for us. We have tokens. That's great. But also, what is the value that's being produced? That needs to be well understood. Rules should fit local circumstances. It's not a one-size-fits-all economy. We'll never get there if we're trying to just copy-paste deploy. Things have to be modified to fit the use case. Participatory decision-making is vital. That's how we get to number 2. People need to have decision power in this system. Commons must be monitored. We need to actually continually monitor the progress of these organizations that we're deploying. And the next one's a tough one. Sanctions for abuse of the commons should be graduated. When we're monitoring and we find that people are scamming the system, like in Angela's talk, it was great. She talked about how Gitcoin is being abused by certain people. There needs to be sanctions applied, but they need to be applied gradually. We need to give warnings and then like small slaps on the wrists. But unfortunately, as much as I love the lovey-dovey, like happy-go-lucky things, without some kind of communication of when people are breaking the rules, they will continue to break them. So sanctions communicate this. And then another very underappreciated and critical piece of any DAO system or any decentralized system is that conflict resolution should be easily accessible. Conflicts are natural and can be transformative. So we need to take an opportunity when there's a social conflict or any kind of conflict, we need to take that as an opportunity to make everything better. And 7 is commons need the right to organize from society. Basically, they need a legal structure. If the government says it's illegal and shuts you down, it's not going to work out, right? And then number 8, which is also very interesting, commons work best when nested within larger networks. Not larger organizations, but networks. And this is why we're not creating a platform. We're allowing different communities to deploy their own system and keeping things small and scaling horizontally. Elinor Ostrom is just the wisest of the wise. I love this quote from her. There is no reason to believe that bureaucrats, politicians, nor the economic technocracy, okay, I added that part, no matter how well-meaning, are better at solving problems than the people on the spot who have the strongest incentive to get the solution right. I don't know why that last line always makes me think real hard. But it's so critical that we give people from the bottom a voice and a way to actually say this stuff. It'll never work without that. Keeping things small gives people that voice. So I love David Bollier is another researcher that I follow in the commons space, and he defines a commons as neither the resource, the community that gathers around it, nor the protocols for its stewardship, but the dynamic interaction between all these elements. When you create a DAO, the DAO is on chain, and that's part of the protocol. That's a major piece of the protocol, but it's not everything. There's also cultural rules that go on top of that. And those are also often forgotten. But what's really important when you're creating the DAO, and I think people in the crypto space recognize this for the most part, is the community and the mission. What are you actually doing? What public good are you providing? Why does your DAO have value? If it's just a casino on Binance Smart Chain, this is probably going to break down eventually. But if you really appreciate the community and its relationship to the value that's being created, and you appreciate how the protocol creates that value, and appreciate how the protocol interacts with the community, there's good UX in these things, we have a major chance for success. And David Bollier absolutely agrees with Elinor Ostrom that the next big thing is a lot of small things. Microeconomies are the way to get pushed forward, in my opinion. So on the social side, the commons research is very valuable, and I can't recommend enough to dive into that. But on the technical side, of course, we are from the blockchain tech. I'm not making this up. I'm not trying to say, hey, I have this innovative idea, let's see if it works. The common stack is trying to take things that we know work and apply them to real-world situations. And we know that these systems continue to create public goods for society. Bitcoin is an open global payment system commons. Zcash has been funding zero-knowledge research for 5 years or something. Namecoin has provided censorship-resistant DNS for the entire world. No one uses it, but it's there. And that's the most amazing thing, is that these sustainable systems, even if no one uses it, it's there for us because they created a system that can continue to financially reward and support the commons. Primecoin continues to find prime numbers every day to the delight of cryptographers around the world. Ethereum, Curecoin, these are all computing power commons. And it's really easy to justify and do things without so much culture when you can very clearly measure the value that's being produced in a computational way with blockchain tech. But the common stack, this is where we really take the leap, We're trying to bridge the incredible incentive alignment that blockchain tools provide with physical world applications. We want to jump into the real world and provide the same incentive alignment that we get with Primecoin, right? But there's some real challenges here. Open, global, blockchain-based economies, much like bridges, are public infrastructure that are hard to change. We must take care and validate our designs as well as iterate upon them. You don't go to Home Depot and start building a bridge and just hack it together. That could get people hurt. We need to appreciate and validate our designs beforehand. But before I dive into token engineering and its value, I want to I want to recommend a documentary to all the innovators out there. It's called General Magic. It's about a group that actually made the smartphone in 1995. They sold 3,000 copies and went out of business because society wasn't ready for the solution they were providing. They knew the long-term goal. They knew where the world was going, but society wasn't ready for it. So I don't want to fall into that trap, and I really strongly recommend you guys don't fall into the trap. We have to appreciate where society is. We have to appreciate the collective psychosis. We have to appreciate the crypto UX, and we have to see where we are and choose audiences for our solutions that can actually succeed. And that's why the Common Stack is extremely delighted to partner with the token engineering community as our first commons, the token engineering commons. The token engineering community understands that, in my opinion, there's no better community to overcome this collective psychosis. They understand that token economies have different models than what normal business models have, and that value can be appreciated through like ecosystem value flows as opposed to needing a business model. And this is the opportunity, because public goods can't have business models. To have a business model, you have to exclude people. You have to have a gate, and a gatekeeper. But public goods, they thrive when there's no gatekeeper. And that means there can't be a business model. But you can have an economic model. So with the TEC, we're trying something different that's never been done before. We're calling it participatory economics. Participatory economics is about allowing the people that are participating in the economy to actually have a choice. There has never been an economy that gave people a choice. The Federal Reserve, we have democracy in the US or whatever, but the Federal Reserve, who elects them, right? Who decides whether the interest rate goes up or down? Not us, right? And even in crypto, crypto is way better because you can opt into the economy, but it's still a bunch of people in back rooms that decide all of the parameters, and then if we choose to accept it, then we buy it or whatever. Or they airdrop to us, and then we sell it if we don't like it. But with the TEC and the Common Stack designs, we're trying something different. We're trying to make it your economy, your choice. From the very beginning, we're allowing people to decide how the DAO is structured. This is like a DAO, instead of just having a group say, yeah, the minimum quorum is 10%, and what it takes 80% voters to say yes, and blah, blah, blah. We actually give people tools so they can decide it themselves. Every crypto economy that's ever existed up until this point has had a technocracy. And that's okay. That's how it is. It's very difficult. Token engineering is a very young science, and most communities aren't in a place where they can do token engineering themselves. But we're very privileged to be working with the token engineering commons. A bunch of token engineers can actually participate in economics. And we can have a crypto economy without a technocracy. And crypto economies, by doing this process, we were very surprised at the benefits. Number one, the biggest benefit is we had an educated community. So we already did this process. We allowed anyone to propose the economic system that we launched. And afterwards, everyone felt like, wow, I really get it. Non-technical people now understand what we're doing and how it works. And so we have the benefit of 60 people that voted on our economy. And I think there were well over 40 submissions of economic parameters from our community that then we voted on. And now everyone knows what the parameters are. And if they want to change them, we have this core group of wise community members from diverse backgrounds that understand it. But that's one of the benefits. One of the challenges is political debates. When you give people a choice, all of a sudden politics comes into it. And different people have different opinions, and it's a challenge. And to have these economic debates, can be challenging for a community. And this is why we spent a year doing the cultural build, making sure that we have a lovey-dovey community that can that celebrates together, that praise each other, that actually appreciate each other. We gave 10,000 praises as a community. 10,000 messages of gratitude to each other throughout this year. And every Thursday, we actually have this awesome call where we just all praise each other. It's really fun and creates a culture of gratitude that allows us to have economic debates. We celebrate birthdays. We celebrate holidays. You know, we have fun together. We're a community. We're not just like creating an economy. But we are creating an economy too. And it's actually live right now. We just started the hatch. We have a goal of reaching $800,000. And we have a cap of $14 million. And we are actively encouraging people to join our community and participate in this. The funds, the XDI that goes into this will actually initialize a bonding curve. And the people who participate will be able to design the bonding curve, the conviction voting system that we launch. So when you put funds into this, you will actually become a member of the DAO and have a say in our economic design. But before you can actually participate, it's not open for everyone. We need to have a trusted seed. And the trusted seed cannot be overstated. It's just like if you're a tech startup, you want to find investors that actually care about the value you intend to produce. And it's the same thing here. So when people apply, we don't need your ID. It's not really KYC. But we look you up on Twitter, and if it's airdrop, DeFi, degen tweets, then we don't let you in. You know, we reject you. But if you actually care about creating value, you will be able to join the hatch. And I really invite you all to check it out. So thank you, guys. Yeah. One last thing, we have shirts. We have shirts back there. If you want one of these, go grab one.